Hello, and today I'm going to be 3D designing a sword that will be 3D designed in SketchUp, then exported to Blender, UV mapped and textured, then thrown into Unity 3D as an actual game object. So now I'm going to be opening up SketchUp 2016. I'm going to start designing the sword. So we're going to grab our line tool. We're going to click and go up the blue axis. I'm going to say about 9 inches. Then we're going to go across the red axis by 2 and go all the way down, holding down Shift on the blue axis and referencing the very end of the other line segment, then connecting them. Now we're going to go up from the top right corner, up the blue axis 2 inches, then out about 3. Then back down and reference the starting point. Now we're going to do this on this other side as well. 3 inches, up by 2 inches, and we're just going to go all the way across, complete the face. We're going to use the eraser tool and erase that line. So now we're getting the basic handle down. Now, actually, I'm going to divide that. I don't like that size, so I'm going to make it even smaller. I'm going to erase the top sections. Now, we're going to use our push-pull tool and bring it out by about 2 inches. Same with the top. So let's bring it all the way out, reference the side there. There we go. So we got this basic handle look-alike. Yeah, it'll be more detailed in a minute here. So now we're going to grab our line tool, go down the center of this top, go all the way across. We're going to do this again, midpoint of the midpoint on both sides, all the way across along the green axis. Now, we're going to click on the very center midpoint and reference the midpoint of the line segment we made across the midpoint of the midpoints to make a diamond. Now we're going to erase that center line of the diamond. Now we're going to grab our line tool again. We're actually going to click on the midpoint and go all the way across on both sides. Now we're going to go to the midpoint again. All this is about midpoints, really. We're going to go across, and we're going to follow the pink line. The pink line says that's parallel. So if you can't find the pink line, go all the way to the corner and follow along the edge until it turns pink. There we go. We're going to do the same on each corner. Okay. Now we're going to use our push-pull tool. We're going to click and pull it all the way down to the bottom by referencing the line segment at the very bottom. Now we can just double-click each corner. And we've done that. Now we're going to use our push-pull tool again for the blade portion. So now we're going to bring it up. And we're going to make this about 1 foot 10 inches. Now we're going to erase these extra lines here. Keep in mind this is a very basic sword that we're doing. Now, at the top, I'm going to make a line going all the way across, clicking off the midpoint and going up about 3 inches. Then, connecting to each corner of the diamond from the top. So now we've got our blade, the hilt, and the handle. Well, let's make the handle curved. So let's use the arc tool and reference the midpoint on the other side. Let's do that for both sides here. Till it hits the edge. Now we're going to use our push-pull tool and all the way up. We're going to fix that. See how we go all the way up and it cancels out the side, the face there? We can just add a line segment and fix that. So now click on the line tool, zoom in, click on the corner that's revealing all the way to the midpoint there. I'm just going to do that for each corner. Now we're going to erase this extra line on the sides. Alright, so now underneath on the handle we're going to use our offset tool and we're going to bring it out probably about 3/8 of an inch and push it up. We're going to click pull it up maybe 2 inches. And here's our real basic sword. Nothing fancy, but will do for a basic video game, for any video game design, or as a basic model. But this should do plenty. So now we're going to export it as a .dae, but actually we're going to save it really quick. I'm just going to save it as a SKP file. You always want to save and always stay organized. So I'm going to name it sword, basic sword, and you can name it basic sword too. And remember to always keep your name the same no matter what mesh file or 3D file it's going to become. So export 3D model under file right here in the corner. Put your DAE file where you keep the rest of your DAE files. Keep the name the same, basic sword. I'm going to hit export. Now that's done exporting, and we can enter Blender. I already had Blender open, so just take a minute to pause the video and start up Blender. If you don't have Blender, I'll include a download link in the description. Now that we have this open scene, we're going to hit File in the top left corner. We're going to hit Import DAE. And now go into the section where you saved your DAE file and pull that up. And now we have our basic sword here. Now what we need to do is join all the sections of this sword in this right hierarchy. See how it says SketchUp and SketchUp? We're going to click join. Now the sword is one solid object. Now in the right corner we're going to click on our object, our sword, click on the block symbol and rename our object to basic sword. We want to keep everything consistent. Now we need to scroll down on this upper icon section here. And to do that, click down on the scroll wheel and move your mouse to the left. Click on Material. We're going to change the material name. This is very important, especially when you're going from SketchUp to Blender to Unity. If you don't change the material name, it's going to be the same material as any object that goes through. And if you do that, that means they all have the same texture, which doesn't work. So rename your texture Basic Sword. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hit Object Mode down here, change it to Edit Mode. Now we're going to highlight everything by clicking A on the keyboard. We're going to click on this corner here where the 3 lines are and drag across. Then we're going to go down to the cube and click UV/image editor. And we get this grid. This grid will end up being our UV map, which will hold our texture. So now with our sword, we're going to go to Shadings and UVs. We're going to click on Unwrap, or we're going to do Smart UV Project. We're going to change the angle limit to 45 degrees. We're going to hit OK. So now, here's our sword as a UV map, and everything is projected by 45 degrees. So here we have the bottom of the sword, the blade, sword handle, everything so far. So now we're going to hit UVs, export UV layout, and put it wherever you yourself save your UV maps. Remember, organization is key, and keeping the name consistent is also key. Now that our UV map is exported, we're going to go to GIMP. GIMP is an image editor software. If you do not have GIMP, I will include it in the downloads in the video. Keep in mind, though, that downloading all 3D softwares and all these programs I'm using in this video are all free softwares. So now we're going to click File in GIMP and go down to Open as Layers, where this little icon is, which means you can open up any image you want as an edited layer. So go where you saved your UV map. Here's our basic sword. I'm going to click Open. Now we have our basic sword. I'm going to now right click over here where this layers are and click New Layer. And I'm going to keep it transparent. I'm going to say OK. Now, what's the amazing thing about GIMP is that you can add layers of different images over these lines, and your UV map is going to turn out fine. If you use something like Windows default paint program, anything overlining these lines here would immediately mess up the UV map. So now we're going to use a reference image for our sword. So it'll texture it with that image. So I'll include downloads to these textures, or you can find textures of your own. Let me find a wooden texture that I want for the handle. I think I'm going to use, going through all my textures here, actually let's find a texture for our video here. So let's search in Google wooden textures and make sure seamless. So that way when it wraps around, it won't be affected. So we're going to use this texture right here. We're going to save it wherever you put your reference images. There we go. I'm just going to name it wood. So now back in GIMP, I'm going to hit File, Open as Layer. We're just going to open up the wood one here that we just downloaded. There we go. And we're going to now move it over our handles and everything like that. And we're actually going to first figure out where the top of the blade is and where the hilt is by just going into here. We can just use our face select here and find out where on our UV map things are. So actually I'm going to figure out where the top here is. So we can see it's kind of all over right there, these three spots. So now I need to find out. Yep, those are over there. Okay, so these are going to be the up there. Perfect. So we're going to open up GIMP again. So now we know kind of what shapes are what. We're going to shrink our texture way down. We're going to move it over what we're going to use. And we're going to scale. Actually, we're going to put this underneath so that way we can see what we're doing underneath our image here. See where we're at. Alrighty, there's that for one of our handles. We're going to right click, we're going to hit duplicate layer. We're going to move it. Oh, nope. We're going to just move that piece of wood over here as well. We're going to scale it again. Half the battle of 3D objects is UV mapping. UV mapping can take forever. It's a long, arduous process that I do not envy. I find that 3D designing involves patience. Actually, I'm going to try and find out which faces are which ones really quick by zooming in here, because I'm trying to figure out. Actually, I think I got all of these faces here, so I think these miniature ones are for that circle. So actually, I'm going to now duplicate this. Now we're going to move this. Nope. Nope. I just want to move this one texture. No, come on. Okay, we're moving it above. There we go. That's just what I'm doing. Now we're going to scale it again. If you're curious as to how I'm zooming in here on GIMP, I'm holding down Control and I'm using the mouse wheel. Alright, now we're just going to move it over again. I'm actually going to move it underneath now. We're going to scale it. There we go, it's scaled. We're going to duplicate this. Duplicate layer. There we go. We're going to move it again, so we're going to have to just resurface it at the top so that way it doesn't move the entire thing. And now move it underneath. I'm going to do the same over there. Control C, Control V as a new floating layer. New layer. Sorry, this takes a bit, but you can come up with some really cool designs this way. I am no expert at UV mapping. I know how to do it and I know how to texture. If anyone knows a better way, then I would love to be enlightened, but so far what I've found is that this is one of the easiest ways to UV map textures. But of course, if anyone knows any different, I would love to know. So now I'm going to get the blade color right here. I'm going to do so by adding another image. And we're going to use a metal image, something metal-like. Actually, we're going to find another metal image just for the sake of this video, so that way I can link it in. Metal texture seamless. And make sure if you're going to, say, make a video game and use these textures or anything like that, make sure that the texture's free and royalty free. See, this says it's free, but always explore the website from where it comes from. So that way you know. So now I have that metal texture. So we're going to go down to our seamless metal. Hit open. And now we can expand the size of this by a lot. Expand, expand, expand. Scale it. And we're just going to move at the bottom of everything. So that way it's overlapping anything, it'll be fine. Now I'm going to duplicate layer. I'm going to move it way up at the top again so that way I can move it around, because we've got these triangles here. And those triangles are the top of the blade. So now I'm going to shrink it way down on what it was. Like I said, what's great about GIMP is that I can be overlapping lines and it won't matter because it saves multiple layers. So it's something I don't have to worry about, which is great. It's really great, especially if you're on a time crunch. So we're going to duplicate layer again. We're going to move it above the layer, and we're going to move it over to where our other metal is. It looks like we're going to have to shrink it. Scale that. Scale it again. Move it. There we go. We're going to now duplicate the layer. We're going to move that over here. Then we're going to duplicate this layer. Move it down to this metal over here. Now we're going to duplicate this layer, so on and so forth. This one we're going to have to shrink and move around again. There we go. Scale. Scale. And scale. There we go. Actually got to go down here and scale this again. Scale. Okay, so we've got those metal pieces, and we're actually going to move them all underneath the UV map. So we have the metal, our wooden handle. We actually still have these rings here, which are the bottoms and tops of the wooden handle. So let's go ahead and fix that. So we're going to actually move this back up. Now we're going to, again, duplicate layer. Then we're going to move it over the one circle there. And duplicate layer again. Move it over this wooden circle. Duplicate layer. Move it all the way down here. And then shape shift it to the criteria we want. At scale, there we go. Then we're going to duplicate this layer, same thing. Like I said, very tedious process, but then you never have to do it again for this one single mesh. And we're going to scale this just because it's overlapping a little bit of the other lines. All it's going to do if it overlaps a little bit is it's going to show up on the texture. It's not going to affect it that much. So actually, I'm going to go back to this one. I'm going to move it a little bit down. There we go. Now we're going to move all these textures underneath our mesh here, or sorry, our UV map. Alright, and now we have the hilt. Actually, I suppose we could just use the metal again, and I think I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to copy this. I'm actually going to duplicate the layer, and I'm just going to scale this really big. I'm going to be macho lazy about this and just scale it all the way across. So now our mesh is done. Or, gosh, I keep saying mesh. Our UV map. So we're going to hit File, Export as PNG. Let's keep that in mind. PNG. Okay. Put it where you keep your UV maps. And actually, don't name it the same thing as your original UV map. Name it something else. I'm going to name it Basic Sword 1 and export it. Because if your UV map messes up, you want to have the original. Alright, there we go. So now let's go back into Blender. And now let's actually delete this light, this lamp, hit X, delete. Click on the camera, hit X, and then delete. And now we're going to hit File, Export as an FBX file. Again, organize it where you keep your FBX files. Organization's key. And keep the same name, Basic Sword. Or however you named it. Now we go into Unity. So now we're going to go to Assets, Create. Actually, hold on a second. We're going to go to Game Object, 3D Object, and we're going to make a plane so that way we can have something going on. And we're going to actually put this at the origin of the map. And with it select, I'm going to hit F so that it focuses right on it. We're going to click on our camera here so that way we can see what we're doing. Okay. And now we're going to hit File. Actually, my bad. We're not going to hit File. We're going to hit Assets, Import New Asset. And we're going to go to our Basic Sword FBX file. And here is our basic sword. We can throw it out here. We can see it here, actually. And if we go to our main camera should be able to see it. We'll bring it way closer. Actually, I'm going to rotate it a little bit so it's almost facing it up, facing up. Okay, rotate again. I'm just positioning so it looks nice. We're going to move it over, move it down a little bit to the right, back a little. There we go. So we got like a full image over here of our sword. Now we're going to hit Assets, Import New Asset, and we're going to get our texture. So find wherever you put your UV map of the texture. Here we go. I have my UV map here. And now I'm going to go to my 3D design, I'm going to click on Basic Sword here, 3D Mesh. We're going to go down to the Basic Sword Texture, click down. Under Main Maps, click on the Albedo, and click on our UV map. Oh gosh, I guess I missed 3 spots there. That must be, let me find that really quick in our spot here. See, this is why we keep a spare copy in case something like that happens. That must be right here. I'm thinking that's where it is, right there, and right there. So, okay, I'm actually thinking that's going to be right here, all this. And that, and possibly that. We can go back to our Blender really quick. Go back into edit mode. We can go back in here and we can actually click, or should be able to click, on those spots that are missing it. So it's in the bottom right corner there, right along here. That's where I missed it. Actually, I'm going to move that all the way back up over our UV map. We're going to duplicate this. We're going to move it all the way down right there. And we're going to move that underneath and move the other wooden shape underneath. Then we're going to go back in here. Looks like it's the back side as well, right there and right there. So we're going to go back into here. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be right over there on our UV map, which is right here. So I'm going to duplicate one of the larger wooden images. Wherever you are. Alright, we're just going to move this up. Above it, we're going to duplicate like usual by right clicking and hit duplicate layer. Then we're going to move it over here and we're just going to scale it. Scale, and now we're going to move that underneath, this underneath. We're going to hit File, Export to Basic Sword 1. Let it complete that. Go back into Unity here. We're going to hit Assets, Import New Asset. We're going to import our texture, Basic Sword 1. We're going to delete our old one. Click on our 3D mesh here. We're going to click under Albedo again. We're going to click on Texture. Looks like we're still missing the back 3, but for the most part we got the whole handle except right there. So I'm going to check again. I think actually that's going to be just right here, these, and possibly those as well. Move this right above again, and actually, you know, if you don't want to go through the hassle of doing all this, I can include a download for this UV map, and I can include a download for the whole thing, the different meshes, the sword itself, so that way, and you can use it for anything. I'm not going to stop you. Okay, we're going to duplicate this, so that way you don't have to go through the whole process of trial and error. Sometimes this happens, especially with something like this that just takes time. I was really hoping this is going to be quicker, to be quite honest. And there we go. So now we're going to move all these underneath our UV map again. We're going to File, Export as Basic Sword 1 again. Go back into Unity once that completes. We're going to go into Assets, Import New Asset. And we're going to go to our mesh here. And we're going to reference that new texture. There we go. So the handle's complete, the sword's there, but we have those lines. So what's great is we can go right back into GIMP again, and we go to our UV map, and weirdly enough, you can erase all these lines and it'll still read perfectly. For some unusual reason. So I'm just going to go through, erase all those extra lines. File, Export as Basic Sword. And now I can go back into Unity, Asset, Import New Asset. We're going to do our albedo again. There we go. Here is our sword, and if we hit play to view our sword, there is our lovely game sword. Very basic, but it's a good introduction to just what you're doing in the game. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. And, you know, if there's something you didn't like, leave that in the comments section as well, so that way you can tell me how I can improve on these videos. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.